Welcome to Startup Health TV. This is a health innovation update. I am Logan Plaster, editor-in-chief of Startup Health magazine, and I am lucky to be joined today by Joe Bhakdi, founder and CEO of Quantgene. Joe, thanks for joining me on this COVID-19 update.
Thanks, Logan, for having me.
So what we've been doing is talking to health innovation entrepreneurs like yourself and really learning how they are reframing, refocusing, sometimes pivoting entirely during the COVID crisis. So I understand a bit about what you're doing, although I will admit it's a bit over my head. But you've been really focusing on rethinking how we look for cures to diseases, working in precision medicine, DNA sequencing, genomic issues. And so I want to start by getting a sense of what Quantgene is at its essence, what it is that you built, and then we'll sort of shift and talk about what does it mean for you right now.
Yeah, thanks, Logan. Definitely interesting times with COVID, and it had an impact on our business. Fortunately, we are very well positioned for this whole situation because our heritage is coming from deep sequencing. So we have the world's most advanced high precision sequencing system. That means we are the best in looking into blood samples, for example, and making sure we can investigate every single copy of DNA in the blood sample. And the reason we did that initially was very focused on cancer detection, because detecting a whole range of the most dangerous cancers at early stages would be a game changer in cancer and in medicine. And the basis for that is it's a lot of AI and math involved, because you have to identify the patterns and the targets you look at on the DNA to make sure no cancer variant can escape you. And then you have to develop really a lot of new chemistry, sequencing strategies, and a lot of software in signal processing to completely revamp and overhaul the way we actually process sequencing data. And that's where Quantgene, I think, shines the most over the last 4 years. And we were in the process of rolling out or preparing a launch for the world's first multi-cancer detection system that is blood-based.
Okay.
And that launch brought us to a lot of questions where Startup Health was tremendously helpful. Because it's not just about technology and bringing something into clinical practice, it's also about regulations and payer systems. Who pays for something like that? And what we learned the hard way is it's incredibly difficult to get something like that paid for before you have massive amounts of data. So we are talking about hundreds of thousands of patients. You need to get reimbursement for something like that, like a fundamental new way of detecting most cancers at early stage. And so what we started to do last year is preparing this launch, very likely this year, for this system in a self-payer environment. And that means patients will come to us on the website and pay themselves for it. And so we are building that first cohort of innovative patients and physicians who order this test that helps us build our clinical data set. So we don't have to spend $500 million or $1 billion on building a 200,000 patient cohort clinical trial.
Sure.
And that led us down the rabbit hole of how do you take something of such a clinical deep importance and turn it into a self-payer system? And that leads to, okay, you need the physicians that work with you. You can't just sell to physicians. You need to integrate whole physician networks into your offering. So if you need to be consumer facing, otherwise it doesn't work on a commercialization side. Sorry. And in order to be consumer facing with a technology like that, you need to have consumer facing physicians, because that's the only way to get it done regulatory wise.
Yeah.
And that then led us down another rabbit hole, which is telemedicine. Yeah. Because how do you build a nationwide consumer-facing physician network as a startup? Not by buying, 1,000 practices.
Sure.
So we partnered up with a series of the best, most innovative telemedicine providers. Sorry, I have to drink something. It's like my throat.
While you do that, I just want to recap. You're talking about some pretty major entrepreneurial shifts and evolutions taking place from being incredibly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, incredibly lab focused, math focused, moving into, consumer driven products, moving into telemedicine. Like, how have you handled just thinking through some of those processes as a founder, those shifts?
I mean, there are two. That's a great question, by the way. That's, I think, the key question here. Well, there are two levels to. First of all, how do you think through these things, and don't give up faith that you can do it, because we are not building one startup. We have to build like 3 or 4. From primary care to telemedicine platforms, to the entire backend infrastructure, to deep chemistry, sequencing, and AI and software. So it's pretty complicated. Yeah. And there are 2 questions for me about that. The first question is, how do you think this all through and stay the course? Yeah. And the second is, how do you then execute it? And the first question, my answer is always, it all starts with a vision and conviction what you actually want, right? Are you into it because you're a scientist who found a cool thing out in sequencing and now you want to commercialize it? Mm-hmm. And the answer is no, it's not. Then you wouldn't build all these things. Do you do it just to make a quick bucket with the most money with the least risk? Definitely not. There are much easier ways. So the reason I do this, and we do it as a team, is really based on our vision and the strategic opportunity that we see, the clinical and human opportunity that translates into a financial opportunity. And that opportunity is to fundamentally rethink and restructure medicine. Because I think at the core, our medical system is truly broken. And I know you hear this probably every day from all your startups, because you pick the right startups. But I mean something very specific with that. Mm. And we see it with COVID right now, what's happening, the chaos. And the problem is that at the center of medicine, both from an economic value creation perspective and from a clinical perspective, you should have one single entity that should be the center, and that's the patient. Mm. Because in the end, you have to provide value to the patient. And the value you provide is not paid for service or some machine or system. It is keeping the patient protected and healthy. Mm. And this is just completely not happening, not on any level. Yeah. This is not the metric you optimize for in healthcare. Not any single business model is not built around that. And you're not getting paid for it as a business. You're getting paid for giving pills or giving new sequencing or all kinds of stuff, but not for keeping the patient safe and protected. Mm. That's exactly what we are building here. We are building the first model that is solely 100% focused at its economic core engine to protect patients' health. And that's the only thing we want to be paid for. And we want to be paid for by the patient, because the patient is the only one who actually is interested in keeping him or herself safe and healthy. Got it. And that's kind of what drives us, because the rest then falls into place. If you want to make sure you and your family are protected and safe from cancer, of all the things you can do, what is the best thing you can do right now? If you look at this with, from a risk perspective, the answer is early detection. That's like the single clinical metric that is proven to provide you by far the biggest protection. Right after that, prevention, and then after that, in that order, which is funny because it's not what's happening.
Wait, sorry, so, you broke up for a second. You said number 1 is early detection. Second is what?
Prevention.
Prevention. Okay.
Lifestyle and prevention. And then the third one is treatment, optimizing treatment, and maybe developing treatments. And right now we have it completely reversed, right? We try to do treatment first. 95% of resources go into that. Then maybe some prevention. You say, oh, don't smoke, which is absolutely correct, don't smoke. But, that doesn't help you with a lot of cancers. So, and so if you want to deliver on that vision, which is, by the way, also an enormous economic opportunity. Once you have something that keeps people alive, you kind of win. Everyone wins. And to deliver on that promise, we can't think like geeks who just think, oh, we have this great tech. We have to think, okay, what do we need to develop and deploy in order to provide the maximum protection to patients now, not in 10 years? And that's how we basically, started the whole thing. we saw an opportunity, and we did a very geeky exercise in actually getting the sequencing system up. But from there, it was really seeing a vision, what we need to do next, what's the leanest path to get this to patients, and then finding the leanest path, right? So if you need telemedicine, don't build your own telemedicine system. Find a good partner who already does that, who's really good at it, and then deploy it. If you need great physicians, don't start a med school, find the physicians who are the most innovative telemedicine trained physicians, and so on. So that's how we think about it. And then COVID came along, and we thought, well, if you want to help people, clearly that's a major source of disruption that's technically super easy. And so it's just an organizational issue to bring tests to people. And so we jumped onto that, I think 3 weeks ago, and making pretty good progress.
Okay. What has that process been like? So 3 weeks ago, you kind of put some things on hold for a moment, or not? And you put not really, you just started to do a COVID project.
Right. We just launched an additional COVID project. Compared to what we do every day, COVID is like incredibly simplistic, like, the antibody test, for example.
The type of test is simple compared to
if you look,
multi-cancer blood test.
Yeah, it's maybe too complex to explain the details of what you need for a cancer detection system. But just to give you one example, if you take an antibody test, you have these little stripes, right? And you do a finger prick, and then there's a certain kind of a flow chemistry behind that separates it out. And you get one data point. You basically have a stripe. It's like, it's there, or it's here, or it's here. And when we do a patient sample with deep genomics, we get 6 billion data points. And that's like literally 6 billion. I'm not metaphorical, like we get 6 actual billion data points. You need a massive cloud system to actually process that. 25% is total noise. You have to filter out the noise with a very complicated, both mathematical and chemistry based system. And so when I see an antibody test, I was like, okay, this is not that hard.
I just like thinking about the range of people's professional ability and how you look at that test as being like child's play. Of course, someone like myself, to me, a test is a test. I'm not a biologist, a chemist, a lab researcher. So it's all beyond me. But to you, it's like, 2 + 2 = 4.
Yeah, it's a completely different ball game. These antibody tests are extremely well understood. You basically have a antigen, and then you have a little flow chemistry, and you see if something.
So why did you jump into it? Was it because we needed more people doing these tests, or you just saw a way you could help? What was the reasoning?
Yeah, so the brand and product we are building is the Quantgene Serenity system. And the promise to our customers is peace of mind, right? If you are a Serenity member, we give you peace of mind across 8 cancers. And so we started thinking about it, and we have the first line extension now into germline testing. Yeah, because if you spend a lot of money on annual testing of your somatic variants in the blood, you can also look at your germline once and know your basic risk. So we are expanding that proposition and say, well, it's Serenity peace of mind, and you don't have peace of mind if you protect you from cancer, but then you are super scared of COVID. We are not doing our job. So we are not a cancer company. We are a health protection and peace of mind company.
Got it.
And if that is true, we have to listen to our patients and see what happens around us. And we are in telemedicine. We are go to our website and buy protection. And if we don't react to COVID, I think COVID is maybe now on the downturn, also attention-wise, in the next months. But there's probably it's coming back probably in winter.
Yeah.
And so we saw it as a good exercise to do something.
That makes perfect sense. So you're starting to sort of describe to me this Serenity platform. I love this idea that it's you're paying for health protection, your peace of mind more than you are an individual test, an individual pill. So tell me exactly where are you at with the Serenity rollout? Do you have a telemedicine partner? Do you have the physicians? Is it active? Where are we at?
Yeah, you catch us a very good moment. So we probably launched that system in May. and it's the end of April, so that's not far off. So we are running all kinds of tests right now, commercial testing. Is that all working? We do our marketing, customer acquisition systems. We will launch initially with our hereditary and our baseline products. So hereditary germline testing, we have tests through a partner, and we have our own genetic counselors that help you understand your cancer risk. Okay. And we have a baseline product where you just get a consultation to go your cancer status, cancer screening status, family risk, and other things, and lifestyle. And then hopefully very soon, ideally in June or July, we will get clear approval, so official, regulatory approval for our flagship system, which is Serenity Protect, which is this deep genomics system, which is an annual test. So we are wrapping these things now up and together, and it's really a whole commercial layer on top of the AI and deep genomics systems for germline. We say, in the end, the brand we are building here, the solution, is really something where you become a member of Serenity, and we bring together the world's best medical minds in the world, and maybe even more important, the world's most advanced medical technologies to keep you safe, to protect you from disease.
Have you publicized the cost structure for that? A subscription service, one-time fee? How does it work?
It is, so we are in the last stages of prototyping that, but I can tell you where it probably ends up very soon. Since we are still very solutions focused, so we have specific solutions that customers are very likely interested in, and we don't have a brand where you say, oh, become a member, and everyone just flocks to us like, I want to be a Serenity member. So in the beginning, it will be product driven. Sure. And a product we define as one specific protection solution. For example, annual cancer protection through screening, or one-off germline consultation and deep clinical grade germline testing for your cancer risk or disease risk based on your genes, or a baseline consultation. So the design is we drive customers to one of these products that they understand, they buy the product, and they get an automated annual membership with the product that discounts the other products. So instead of saying, oh, buy the Serenity membership, we say, okay, you are probably interested in something specific. That's how you ended up here. And so you buy one of these, but guess what? We give you for free a membership. Well, it's included. And then you're a member. And once you're a member, you get the discounted membership pricing. And it's a 25%, so it's significantly discounted for members. And then we will, I think, we have a good member program that by itself is probably not enough to sell the membership. But once you're a member, you will really appreciate that, which is, monthly webinars on interesting things. You get updates on COVID and, other population health issues, and of course, cancer-related updates. A 24/7 concierge service. So you can always ping us with anything you have, health-related, and we try our best to help you and to connect you to physicians that know about these things.
Is the initial price point, you mentioned concierge, which is sort of associated with platinum level service. Is this going to be priced such that normal folks like myself can use it, or is it really a premium service?
So we are really actively trying. Here's our strategy. So the vision, of course, is to bring this to everyone and create a new system of medicine. We have this mantra, a decade within a decade. Our strategic objective is we want to extend the average lifespan of our members by 10 years within the next 10 years, which is pretty ambitious, but possible.
I love it.
Cancer, cardiovascular, diabetes, if you combine these things, you could actually extend by an average of 10 years if you do a perfect job in protecting it with the current standard of care, not even talking about future tech. Now, to get there, we have a very specific and clear strategy. If you look at any other field of innovation, you cannot start at the low end of the market with innovation. If you want to create new things, like look at Tesla, right? First, you bring out an expensive car because you have to figure it out. You need high margins so you can actually prototype all these things and figure it out. And then you start to drive down the price and bring up scale as quickly as you can, but not quicker, because then you stall your innovation. So we start with a $2,400 per year price for the flagship. roughly $700 for hereditary full on clinical grade testing with genetic counseling, which is comparatively cheap, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's not super cheap. I mean, we are aware of that cost issue. So we are kind of positioned in premium medicine at the lower end.
Sure.
Right? It's kind of a luxury market at the lower end, only that it's not luxury, it's actually health protection.
Yeah.
That's where we start. Strategic objective is drive it to 10,000 members, and then as quickly as possible, bring down these prices and add more value.
I mean, certainly when you compare it to some of the outrageous healthcare bills that we're seeing, it sounds relatively reasonable, you know, as any cash-based service does. It seems more in line with what you're receiving compared to some 10x inflation that you read about with healthcare bills these days.
Yeah, and I think this is the big, you know, the fact that we are positioned on the lower end of a premium price point healthcare self-payer is not owed to the fact that we believe we should be premium, right? It's just a necessity of figuring all these things out and providing the level of service before we are at scale. And we want to bring down prices. There are some benchmarks, other liquid biopsy systems that are being used in oncology that are actually far inferior to ours in terms of underlying tech. They sell for 50 to 100% more than our test, even though they are underperformed clearly. And so, yeah, people tend to be not too shocked by the pricing. It's like, okay, it's serious business. It's not like a cafe latte. It's keeping you safe from 8 different cancers. So.
Well, that's fascinating. I am really excited to see what you roll out and kind of how this develops over the coming months. You said May, Serenity rollout, and then it'll be a very interesting rest of 2020, I'm sure. We're running low on time. I wanted to throw you a curveball for a final question, which was, I saw that Quantgene had been voted a best place to work in LA. Am I correct for 2020 this year?
That's correct. And we're very happy about it.
Yeah, it's a great honor. And as a founder, CEO, I thought maybe we could close by you just asking you for a piece of advice, a strategy for other entrepreneurs about how to create a work environment that is not just good enough to make one of these lists, but is robust enough to really evolve the way you've described. You described a couple of pretty big shifts, and you got to have a pretty strong work culture to manage that. So how do you do that?
That's a tremendous question. And I would answer that by looking at how you get voted, best place, one of the best places to work with. And they actually ask employees. And if the employees are they say it's a great place, then you get voted a great place. And so the question is, how do you ensure that? Especially with a business like ours, where you have to have major pivots and there is friction, right? And people get disappointed. They work all day long, all months long on something, and then you decide, well, we actually have to do something different. The answer is, all the things you think you should do, like, be very nice to everyone, buy them like fancy stuff and nice sushi. I don't believe in that stuff. We are actually not doing too much of that. We try to make the environment nice, but it's really much more purpose and communicating the vision. And be very frank, say, like, guys, this is not going to be easy. It's not a walk in the park. We have tremendous technical challenges, regulatory, all kinds of things. We want to change medicine. And there are people who don't like it. There are regulators, there are all kinds of people. This is not going to be easy. But the thing we are working on here has an impact greater than anything else you could possibly do. You're literally talking about saving a lot of lives, potentially your own and your families. That's how we view it. Like, it is something that I am very passionate personally, because we have cancer in the family. Everyone knows someone with cancer. We have other diseases and problems that are kind of easy to tackle once you're in this mode. So my strategy here is really make very clear to everyone, this is not going to be easy, but it's tremendously important that everyone plays a crucial part in this and everyone is appreciated. And then we expect everyone to give their best, but also respect that effort and appreciate everyone. So I'm much more on the tougher part. I think it's much better to have a really world-changing mission, to really appreciate everyone, say like, without you guys, we cannot do it. And if we fail, we have to all fail together, which is terrible. So let's not do it. And the rest is going to be tough. And that is actually what makes you happy in the end. That's my philosophy.
Nice, nice. All right, Joe. Well, we'll be watching to see how that philosophy plays out in 2020 as you roll out this new product, and just really excited to see what you're creating there at Quantgene. So thanks for taking the time.
Thanks a lot, Logan. Appreciate it.